Hello, everyone. My name is 𝗞𝗲𝘆 and I am a transformational speaker, best-selling author, and an expert in holistic transformation, self-mastery, and extreme performance. My company, 𝗞𝗲𝘆 is a leading personal growth hacking agency dedicated to empowering individuals who pursue excellence to exponentially enhance their quality of life by 10xing the only common denominator, themselves. And today, during this conversation and webinar, my goal will be to inspire you, empower you, and educate you on the subject of how to become your best self. What are the steps that you can take today? And what is the path that you can follow so you always know that you are following your North Star and you're always making progress towards this destination? Because as I love to say, unless you're a saint, you have plenty of work to do. However, here's the wonderful thing. All saints were sinners that didn't give up. So we all have a great chance to even become saints in this reincarnation if that is something we aspire to. Now, I always like to start each conversation by asking the question why. Why do we want to become the best version of ourselves? Without a strong why or a reason for why we want to do something, when the going gets tough, we tend to give up easy, or we have nothing to anchor onto and propel us forward. So it's always fundamentally important, regardless of what we are getting ourselves into, to have a very strong why. A reason why that is so emotionally charged for us that every time we connect to it, we're back on track. It's just like we cannot imagine not going through the process, the transformation, whatever it is that we want to see the completion of. So I would ask you, since we are in a small intimate group, for a moment to think about what is your why. Why do you want to become the best version of yourself? And don't mind, either type it in the chat box or or unmute yourself and share with us. I'm really curious, what is your why? Or have you ever thought about what your why is? Because this is a game changer for a lot of people.
For me, my why is we only have one life at the end of the day, and why not make it your best one? Because after we leave this earth, I would like to leave a legacy, and a legacy that's going to allow my godchildren and possibly my children to then remember me as someone who made a difference. And becoming my why is becoming my best self and doing that. Okay.
Well, I would definitely recommend doing some work deeper. Here's the thing. You want to find a why. This is a process, not necessarily immediately right now, but this is a process. Sit down and go through this and find a why that is so emotionally charged that every time the goings get tough, you can reconnect to or just think of, and you'll be back on track because you're emotionally are so charged that it makes you cry. That's what the type of why I want you to have. It's very, very important to have this why. All good reasons, absolutely wonderful to come from a place of service, adding value and living this place better off than when you found it first. So that's always a great thing, absolutely. But just making it even more personal and so on.
Understood.
What about you, Monica?
This is interesting because I actually never thought about a why. So I've taken my first note with a big why because I want to think about it. So I live life as again, as one of the greatest opportunity that I was given for growth. And the only way to grow is to actually keep on making yourself better and better and better. That's what growth is for me. But if I were to pinpoint a big why, I cannot right now. So I'm definitely gonna be pondering on that. Yes, I will.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You don't have to. As long as you're committed to find it, that's the important thing. Just like if you're prospecting for gold or for oil, you cannot expect to find the golden nuggets or the oil center by just one try, right? So you have to be at it and go at it. And once you have it, anchor yourself to that why, especially each and every single time the resistance shows up, adversity and all these challenges along the way, because there will be challenges by default. It's wired or it's part of the program, regardless of how easy you want to take life, or let's say maybe you're on the complete other end of the spectrum where you don't want to grow, you just want to be really, really comfortable. And even if that's your goal, is life's still gonna throw some oddballs at you all the time, just to test you up and give you the opportunity to grow. Because what you just said is so true. Earth is a school. We all brought here to learn and grow. And we all might think that we grow in the sense of biologically, meaning that we're no babies anymore. But when it comes down to level of consciousness in comparison to saints and so on, right? Like having a higher target as what could be our North Star, because why would we sell ourselves short? If we want to grow to be the best version of ourselves, being a saint is a possibility. It's not out of the books. So why not strive for something like this? And if we compare where majority of humanity is nowadays, they're still in kindergarten, regardless of their biological age, because age and emotional maturity are two very different things. And then your level of consciousness, now that's a whole different ballgame. But coming from this place of always being open to looking at how can you become a better human being? How can you be better to yourself? How can you be better to your family, to everyone? How can you live something of value? How can you be someone who inspires others, somebody who is there to collaborate, to contribute, to add something rather than take and always being concerned with their own little box? So that's a wonderful thing, wonderful thing. Thank you both for sharing. Now, here is a nice why I really love this expression by Wayne Dyer. He was a personal development teacher and coach. Maybe you've heard of him before, maybe not, but he has this very popular quote: "Don't die with your music still in you." So that's a good why that you can use just to begin with, right? Because we all are brought into this reincarnation, into this lifetime, with unique gifts and talents that are gifted to us to develop and share with the rest of the world. And if we are not doing this, we're gonna die with our music still within us. And that would be a very poorly lived life. So I definitely encourage you to find the instrument within and start strumming it.
Love it.
So the next question we're gonna move into is, how do we know, or how would we know what the best version of ourselves is, right? First, if we want to get somewhere, we want to know where we at and then where we want to go. So it's always great to have a North Star that we can follow. Now, in my personal world, I want to be, or not want to be, my goal, and through all the things I'm doing on a daily basis, is to reach the level of an ascended master, or somebody who has reached an enlightenment and oneness, and who can return back to earth if necessary to help others again from a much deeper perspective. So this is something I aspire to. And I know it's a very, very large goal, but I set a North Star that would always keep me going, regardless how self-absorbed my ego might become, which is something I've been working on, to be very less egoic and more ethnocentric and world-centric, and always being focused on how I can add value and be of service, right? Because there's nothing wrong with investing time in ourselves or making efforts to become better human beings, better persons, again, better mothers, better fathers, better friends, better lovers, and all of these things, but only when it's coming from the place, it's not just from us, but then how can we impact others? How can we be the example that others can follow? How can we do something in the world that we are brought to do? Because again, those gifts that we are brought into this existence with, they were not given to us to withhold or for our own personal enjoyment. They were given to us to develop and they're shared with the world. So it's always coming from this place. We making an investment in ourselves by becoming the best version of ourselves and making strides every single day. But at the end of the day, it's not about us. It's about how can we add more value? How can we be more impactful in a positive way? How can we be the example? And that doesn't have to be by being Mother Teresa or Gandhi or some huge political figure or somebody who creates a tremendous company. You can be the most amazing person in your community, just in your neighborhood, that serves your community so powerfully that you transform the lives of a handful of people. Because at the end of the day, it's not the quantity, it's the quality. So this is something I want to encourage you to always keep in mind. It's not the quantity, it's the quality that we can add as value, or how can we impact the lives of others. And always coming from this place of like, what do I aspire to be? What if, coming from this place, use this question, if I knew that I couldn't fail at anything and the universe has conspired to keep me happy, healthy, wealthy, successful, and fulfilled, what would be my most magnificent best version? What would that be? So I want you, again, this is not necessarily something to answer right now immediately, but something to think about and see what you aspire, what would this amazing vision of yourself is, and always connect that vision. Because at the end of the day, it's not coming from the place of, oh, I'm here, I want to get there. It's more of this is where I'm going, but I can already embody this person, because that's why we want to have a clarity of who this person is. So we can embody this person today rather than waiting one day, if we do this, then. And we're going to discuss the if-then model as we go into the conversation. But here is a great example I want to give you. Someone becomes a climber the very first moment they start climbing a mountain, not when they get to the top. So you don't have to be at the top in order to be a climber, if that's making any sense. So the next thing we definitely want to take a deep look at is, how do we discover our own innate gifts and talents? What are these things that we are uniquely gifted with? Because we do. Each and every single one of us has the potential, if we are able to discover these gifts, to become a genius at something and to excel at something. Again, with the given time, effort, and so on. It's not just because we have these talents, we're necessarily going to be a genius at something. But genius, everybody can be a genius or be recognized as being brilliant at something. But that's because they've discovered of what they're already predisposed to excel at through birth, the innate gifts they have, and they work on it to stretch it beyond what others could possibly do in a lifetime. So here are a few examples I want to give you, in a sense of not necessarily examples, but how you can discover your talents, or how can you notice them. Maybe you guys want to share. I'm just going to bring these things up and see what pops up in your memory or in your consciousness. For example, what your friends, close friends, compliment you about always. Like, oh, you're so good at...
This is so interesting what you just saying, because I've been personally going through a transformational, let's say, in the past 6-7 months, and exactly for that reason, because I want to discover what my talents are. I'm just going in a completely different direction that I've gone through all my 45, 46 years of my life. I'm just changing now. So I've been asking my friends that exact same question, but I'm not getting any satisfying answers. Maybe I'm not asking the right way, because my friends are on a different level. They're starting to see me as I'm weird by asking these questions. There's like, what are you talking about? So that could be a difficult question to ask your friends as well. People that have known you in a certain way for most of your life, and then now that you're going through some changes, I don't relate with them anymore. It's like I need to have a different tribe around me. I need to have like-minded people that we talk the same language and they can help me in that direction. So asking my longtime friends is not helping me at the moment.
Well, here's my advice. Do not ask them. It's not a question to ask, because when you ask the question, you put them on the spot and they have to notice things about it. It's more about you just paying attention what they compliment you about without you asking, right? Because when you're asking, even sometimes just for them, depending on how authentic they are, because this is, again, being authentic is something that most people are not. And just so they don't make you feel uncomfortable or they seem like assholes, they might just tell you something, but it might be completely dishonest just for them to be polite and nice. Because there are a lot of people that have no ability to have candor and authenticity when it's necessary to serve someone's best interest by telling them the truth. So a lot of times they will reframe things or make them sound a lot more sweeter than they actually are, and so on. So don't ask the question. Just be conscious and pay attention when people compliment you about things, especially people that, you know, you do things for, not necessarily on your clothes and so on, even though this is also a nice compliment. Maybe you're someone who's very good at putting styles together and so on. So that could be something, right? It's just always just being conscious of those compliments that you don't ask about that people give you, right? Because it's almost like you're asking someone to give you a compliment.
Yeah.
In a covered way.
Yeah, it just, yeah, I guess it's not, from my side, it's not easier, even if I've been, and I've got pages and pages of my, on my journal, you know, trying to discover that. And just, even when I have interaction with my friends and saying, okay, what did they contacted me for? Like, did they ask me to help them with something? And then just try to, you know, translate the help that they asked me into something that could be my talent. So it's probably it's because they trust me, for example. So it's trust, or they call me just to talk to me about their issues or their problems. That means that they want to hear what I can tell them, and that's already, I translate that into being like trust, that I can listen, they can have a helping hand, you know, all these sort of things. So that's how I'm trying to translate when friends ask me for something.
That's another way to look at it, though. I still haven't given you all the...
Oh, okay. So I'm just preempting.
Yeah,
okay.
But that's just one way, but definitely, absolutely. Actually, being conscious of what favors or what friends ask you for, or people that know you well, to help them with.
Mhm.
That's another, and so you've already been doing this. This is a great thing to look at. However, here's the most significant one. The things that we are predisposed to excel at and innately gifted are the things that energizes, meaning that the more you do it, the more energized you get. For example, I love teaching, I love talking and so on and being social. The more I do this, the longer I can go. I don't get tired. I get more energized and wired as I go into it. So this is something that's going to be the most significant red flag of, oh yeah, this is something that might be it. All right. Every time we do this, we just get more energized and more excited. We just get lost in time, in the sense of like we lose sense of time. It's just the time flows and we know it's effortless. It doesn't require any effort on our end. We can go and do it for as long as we want to do it. So this is kind of the most significant give up that will signify that you're on the right path, or you've kind of like pointed out something that truly is your gift.
Thank you. You just gave me a trigger, actually, just right now. Okay, great.
Yeah, so be very mindful of those things. And again, when it comes down to all the things we discussed already, I hope you already have a meditation practice. By having a meditation practice that allows you to be present throughout your day is going to help you a lot with these things, because the more present you are, the more you can notice these things, meaning like the things that energize you, the things that your friends tell you, the things that they call you about. Because if you're just lost in your thoughts, right, you're not present in the moment, you're missing on so much information that's been made available to you. So this is why meditation is one of the most fundamental things that we can do in order to, or start practicing and install on the being level, to be meditators or yogis or whatever expression you want to use, in order to become the best version of ourselves. Because meditation is fundamental. You can look at meditation as mental hygiene. Just like you brush your teeth every day, you have to have a meditation practice. And the first starting point that I can recommend is an awareness meditation practice, or vipassana meditation, which is a type of meditation that allows you to be very present in the moment. So you fully absorb in everything that's going on around you, and you have no thoughts in your head. Not that they don't come in, but you're in this very grounded, calm and centered place. And nothing really can, once you start having this practice and install it, nothing really can throw you off balance. You're always very centered, peaceful, calm. You're neither like too excited or too sad or angry or whatever. You're very, very centered. You kind of, the word they use is equanimous, meaning like you're very balanced. And from this place, you can notice a lot of things about yourself, a lot of things about the people around you, a lot of things about the world around you. And this is fundamental, because when it comes down to the scientific discoveries that we human beings have made and the progress, it's always have come from the place of observation, of being able to observe and notice something that's already there, because we don't discover anything. We just acknowledge that it's already there. That's all it is. It's already there. It's not like we discovered it, meaning like it wasn't there to begin with. Christopher Columbus didn't discover America, whatever he's credited it with. It was already there. It just Europeans didn't know about it, right? So it's always coming from this place of having level of awareness that allows us to be very present and absorbing all the information that's coming at us, that will allow us to really start catching up those little things. You know, I remember back in the day when I was growing up, I was interested in all these things. The signs were there for my gifts and what I'm brought in this reincarnation to do and be of service with. But I choose not to necessarily ignore it, but I wasn't really listening to the signs. They were there, but I was never even processing them or giving them any value. It was just like, whatever, you know. But for example, again, those things, especially if you can reconnect with old childhood friends and ask them, and not necessarily ask them, but what do you remember me for? All right, not necessarily what was I good, but what do you remember me for? And maybe then things will come up, because my aunt, for example, used to call me the philosopher when I was a kid. And that wasn't a random thing, because I always had a very good explanation for everything, right? It was very hard to argue with me. So that's another place to look at. Early childhood, because in our early childhood, before we've been really conditioned and programmed and just exposed to the environment, all of these natural gifts tend to be highly expressed. Another thing that I was good or really liked was to paint, right? There's different things. So recall on these things, the things you used to really like when you were a child, the things that you still do today that you enjoy doing. What are you curious about? What are the curiosities you have about? What are you curious, right? What aspects of life, what always you cannot get enough of, in a sense of like your curiosity and so on. So these are things to be always conscious of. And the more present and meditative we are, because meditation at a certain point in time becomes a state of being. It's no longer something that we do. It's something that we become. It's part of us, right? You don't have to meditate. It's not necessarily you don't have to meditate anymore, but you can, after you, let's say, meditate every morning, you can sustain this meditative state throughout the day. And you can be in this very centered space with a very calm and clear mind, which is fundamental, because otherwise the mind is what they, in ancient Asian cultures, they call the monkey mind. Going from one branch to the next one, from one to the next one, and so on and so on. And unless you train the brain and the mind, the way I like to describe it, it's like a little puppy pissing anywhere and pooping anywhere it wants, because it hasn't been trained to potty yet. So it's a process, but it's definitely well worth it, especially on the journey of becoming our best self. It's a fundamental tool, technique, and just totally priceless practice, because the difference that it creates in the quality of life is significant. Nothing else will directly impact the quality of your life that as meditation would. Nothing else. Doesn't matter what it is. So I do encourage you both to look into meditation if you haven't started yet, and develop the practice of meditation, daily meditation. And this will allow you, again, not just from the many benefits, but it will allow you to have a lot more clarity about what your gifts might be, and so on, be able to spot them and notice them and feel them within you. Yeah. But definitely keep an eye out for the things that energize you. The things that the more you do, the more energized you feel. This is a very good sign. Now, let's say, even if we struggle to find our gifts at this moment, it's not like something we need to be obsessed about, right? We just go about our day, we do what we do, and so on. It's not something to obsess about, it's something to be mindful of. But more important thing is to really craft a purpose for our life, to have a mission on this planet. And I will share minds with you, but I'll give you 3 questions I want you to ask yourself. And once you have those 3 questions answered, you can create a concise purpose for yourself rather than going through life seeking your life's purpose. Because this is a very futile thing to do. Because once we have a life's purpose or a very clear idea of why we're here in this game of life, it's much easier to see or know who we need to become to be better at it. So the main 3 questions are, the first one is, who am I? And what do I mean by this? Is you create an identity statement. I am da. Now I'll share my ambitious one with you, just as an example, so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. But I am the world's foremost and sought after expert, transformational speaker, and critically acclaimed best-selling author on the subjects of self-mastery, holistic transformation, and extreme performance. This is the most concise version of my I am statement or identity statement. Why is this important? Is that as human beings, our psychology is wired in such a way that we have to behave in accordance with our sense of self. So, for example, why do smokers have a hard time quitting smoking cigarettes? Because it's part of their identity to smoke. They're smokers. But if they shift their identity to non-smokers, a non-smoker does not smoke. So it's natural not to smoke anymore. This is a simple example, but it's a very powerful example. So every time we want to become our best self or aspire to become a greater version of ourselves, we want to create an I am statement that is ambitious. That this I am statement, in a way, equals the behaviors that we want to be demonstrating from here on, going forward, the habits we want to develop, the ways of being, the character traits, and so on. So starting with this question, who am I? And then creating I am or an identity statement is where we start. Now the next question is what am I all about? Meaning, like, what are the things you really care about? What are the things that are really dear to your heart? What are the things that you really want to make impact on, and so on? Like, what are these things that you're passionate about? What are these things that you obsess about? So again, it's not necessary to answer all these questions today at this moment, because they are deep questions that they require some reflection on. But it's definitely questions to have a clear answer on. And obviously these things might change, right? They don't have to be set in stone. We can, the ideas of who we are, what our life is about, and so on can evolve as we go through our journey. They don't have to be set in stone. We can go and revisit, redo them, redesign it, and so on. But as long as we have a guidance at this moment, it's already a great place to start. And the next final question is, what do I want my life to be about? Once we have an answer to all these questions, again, we can create a concise, paragraph-long purpose or a mission for our life. overarching guidance of what our life is about, because from that point we can navigate through life very skillfully rather than drifting around. And once we have a clear purpose, it's much easier to create a vision for our life, and then based on that vision, set goals that would get us there or get us closer to that vision. So for example, I'll share with you my purpose, or what I believe to be my purpose at this moment, and what I most closely resonate with. My mission is to empower, inspire, and educate individuals from all walks of life to realize and accept their own divine nature, to discover and develop their greatest gifts, and to share them in the most impactful way with the world. Now again, I'm open to revisiting and evolving my purpose as more evidence and my life's journey unfolds in front of me, rather than being rigid and holding on to like, oh, this is my box and I just want to fit in this box because it's comfortable. I'm open always to evolve, to expand, because again, we are here to grow, we are here to contribute, we are here to expand. And life, when we're ready for something, life will call us. There will be a call for us to show up and deliver the goods. So this is something to be really mindful of going into that journey of personal growth and development and becoming the best version of yourself that you can envision. Because it makes perfect sense to align the best version of yourself that you can envision with the actual vision for your life. Because then it will be much easier to reach that vision. And there will be no incoherence. Now we all here playing this game of life to have an amazing time. And I want to share with you a very essential truth of what's the one thing or this feeling that we all seeking or going after is ultimately is fulfillment in life. That's what we want to have. We want to be fulfilled. Because the human consciousness by default always oscillates between 4 states consistently. Happiness, sadness, boredom or indifference, and rare states of calm and peace. But it always oscillates. That's why our moods swing and so on, and one day we can be extremely happy and next day nothing happens, but we kind of feel sad. It's like the waves in the ocean. They have peaks and troughs, or like a swing. It swings backwards and forwards, and this is throughout our life. However, if we want to be fulfilled in this lifetime, there are 2 things we can do to stay fulfilled or maintain the state of fulfillment. And the first one is personal growth, or focusing again on growing or doing something every single day that makes us a better human being. And the second one, the second element, is contribution, or doing something for others, being of service, adding value. And this is fundamental, because at the end of the day, our growth again is not for us, but it's who can we become in order to be able to add as much value as we possibly can. And in return, no matter what, the universe will reward us back for our generosity. Because if you give, you get in return. It's just how the system works. By being generous, meaning you serving and doing as much as you can to serve your brothers and sisters, because at the higher level of consciousness, we reach a point where there is no distinction between me, you, and everyone else. We just are. We're just one, just like the waves in the ocean. They're just individuations of one same thing and go back to it. So we're always doing, whenever we're serving others, it's not like we are serving someone. It's like doing favor for yourself. If you start looking at from that perspective, this is a paradigm shift. Rather than, oh, I'm doing this for that person, think of it as you doing this for yourself. And trust me, your generosity will find its way back to you. It's how the system works. It's energy exchange. If you put in the energy into the system, the energy will give you back energy. It's as simple as that. Because it's all energy at the end of the day. Or the higher, once we start to level up the level of consciousness or the way we view it, we discover quickly that it's all energy. And energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transmuted. Or meaning it can shift its position or shape and form. But it remains. It's never exhausted. Now we come into the next fundamental step. I've already talked to you or shared with you guys some out-of-the-box ideas. And the most fundamental step when we are on the growth path is having a growth mindset, an open mind, rather than a fixed mindset. Adopting the growth mindset and an open mind, because the mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. And I would imagine, since you're already sticking to this point, if there was a lot of things I share with you that you're not open to entertaining or at least be curious about, you wouldn't be still in the webinar. So I acknowledge you for having an open mind. This is a fundamental place to start from. But continue on with the growth mindset, because here's the thing. The mind is infinite in its ability to grow and expand. The only thing that we have an actual physical limit to is our physical body. Outside of the physical body, as part of my work, I have developed a proprietary system for personal growth and development, which I call the cube, because a cube has six planes or 6 sides, 6 elements, six dimensions. First of one, or the most fundamental one of which is spirit. Then the next one is intuition. The next one is energy. Then we go down to the mind. We have emotions and then body. Of all these 6 planes, the only one that has limitation is the body. The rest, over 90% or so of what makes us who we truly are is something that has no limits on its capacity for expansion, growth, and evolution. Just like, for example, if we're to dissect what the human body is in reality and what it's made out of, they're simple little cells. The human body is an amazingly well put together symphony of trillions of cells that are communicating in like billions ways in every single split of a second. And if we trace back life on our planet from what science is able to retrace back to, life all started by the most simple single-cell organisms. There weren't even cells. Cells were advanced. They were more like bacteria, because part of what makes our cell able to generate energy on its own was a very unique synergy that happened billions of years ago, when simple bacteria and so on organize each other to cooperate with each other and work together. And it's called the mitochondria, or these are little almost like cell-like organisms. They're not even one-cell organisms. They're like viruses or bacteria that actually generates energy in our cells. So our cells by default are quite advanced. And this is the level of, let's say, evolution through billions, millions, hundreds of millions of years to finally human beings having this amazing technology that we call a human body. So just like this example, from a perspective of how far we have come, how far further can we go? It's infinite. It's unlimited. We have unlimited capacity to expand. So an open mind and a growth mindset, where you're always understanding that no matter how much you learn, no matter how much you grow, there's always more than you can learn and more than you can grow, because the one thing you discover, that the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know. And every single scholar, not to be a scholar, but every single person with a curiosity for life, for truth, for seeking truth and wisdom and insight, have discovered this, that the more dots they connect, the more things they realize, wow, there's so much more to this. Like, it's a lifetime is insufficient. That's why a lot of the spiritual teachers that I've studied and talked through the centuries have said that this is just a reincarnation. This moment of time that we're living, that we think our life is just a reincarnation, which is kind of like an episode of a very long series called Our Soul's Life. And we are just having this human experience here to learn and grow as much as we can in this reincarnation. So we have infinite capacity to expand. And by keeping an open mind and a growth mindset, which rather than the other end of the spectrum, which would be the other extreme, meaning fixed mindset, I would imagine you have stumbled upon people with fixed mindset. And as you, Monica, mentioned, as we start to transform, as we start to expand of our concept of who we are, what life is all about, and all these things, we start to change. And there are people around us who have this fixed mindset. At a certain moment, the things we talk to them about and share, because it's natural for us to want to share the amazing things we discover, the things we learn, right? It's like, this is how I actually discovered that I enjoyed teaching. It was through me discovering things that work and sharing them with my friends or just strangers when I went to different events and so on. And everybody was just telling me, wow, man, you should teach this stuff. You're so good at it. And even back then, I wasn't still paying attention to those signs, but that's how we start. And you're going to notice quickly how the folks with fixed mindset are very, very triggered whenever you tell them something. They come angry, defensive, whatever. They always have to fight you on it, rather than allowing this information to permeate their being, just as I was suggesting earlier in the conversation, to be very present and just allow for the information to enter your consciousness, and then allow your intuition to tell you, a sense of knowing, is this what I'm talking about? Is it crap, or it's based in some truth that might necessarily be obvious to science today? Because what is obvious to science today, we literally live in still 1920 when it comes down to how science works, on the views of the scientific community. And the views they had in 1920 were the views that the rishis, the ancient yogic monks in India, had 10,000 years ago. They were already talking about this 10,000 years ago without none of this technology. How would they know about it? Obviously, they didn't read about it on Google, right? Or they did scientific experimentation, but not through tools, through using their consciousness, their intuitive ability. This is actually something that Nikola Tesla, the famous inventor, was using all of the time. And he never credited himself for his work. He has always said that he was just working on the ideas that came to him. He was just a channel for those ideas. He wasn't the one creating them in his consciousness. He just allowed his consciousness to be permeated with these ideas. So growth mindset, fundamental. If we don't have a growth mindset, we're always going to be at a chokehold. And there's a famous expression I believe in Spain, that the chokehold in a bottle is always at the top. And it's always in our head, right? That's where the chokehold is. And maybe there are areas where we have actually fixed mindset, things that we think that are just the way they are. In these, like, yes, about this I'm open-minded, but about this I'm very close-minded, right? You're either all in or you're all out. There is no in between. You have to be always open, realizing that there are always better ways, because all there is to discovery in life is not about, again, learning something that's not already being taught. It's choosing or being able to see things from a very different perspective. Because once you have a paradigm shift, everything changes. And that's what's been one of the most significant things that have led human progress, scientific discovery, and so on. Choosing or seeing things from a very different light and perspective, rather than looking at it from the same way as everyone has always have. Because if you do what you always have or someone always had, you will be getting the very same results. You cannot expect anything different to happen. So I hope this is making sense.
It is.
Now, Natalie already mentioned that it was about limitations. One of the things that she was interested about was overcoming and crushing her limitations. And this is the next topic we're going to be actually diving into. Now, here is the truth. It's as simple as I can put it into words. All limitations are psychological. Outside of our head, none of those limitations exist. They only exist on a psychological level. Because physically, we human beings have a very vague idea of actually what our capabilities are. Very vague idea. Because we are not allowing our mind to take us to what is possible or even impossible. Because here's a very simple exercise we can all do, or you can guys do if you want to. If you close your eyes and you turn around as far as you can, and then open your eyes and see how far you've gone, and remember, and then close your eyes and envision that you spin around yourself, almost like somebody who made from rubber. And to try it again, I can guarantee you they'll be able to twist around yourself at least 30% further. It's realizing that our mind, our beliefs, our thoughts are what enables this body to do what's capable of, if we want to. So in order for us to lack the limitations, we want to be able to pinpoint our limiting beliefs and replace them with a more powerful, empowering beliefs. Here's a simple analogy. Our beliefs are like the apps on our smartphones. If we want to be able to have a social platform that we can share photos with, right? We need to have, let's say, Instagram installed on our phone. If we want to have the ability to take nice photos, then we need a decent photo app and so on. So each belief is like an app that allows us to do things. So if we are unable to do something, or we have what we see as a limitation, we need to revisit our beliefs and see where is this occurring from, where is this limitation starting. Because we don't want to be treating the symptom, we want to go to the fundamental cause and root out this belief. Most of those beliefs are planted, rooted, and seeded when we were children through our environment, our parents, whatever. Not that they had any desire to disempower us or implant in us ideas that might limit how we choose to live or what we believe is possible for us, but maybe they held these beliefs. And by exposure and inability to have critical thinking at early age, we just like little sponges soaked up all of these habits, things that we saw, all the things that we're just consistently exposed to. Because here's the thing, when it comes down to limitation, if you remember this sentence and you always bring it up, each time your limiting belief is creating a limitation or is stopping you to do something, or is, your inner voice, the inner critic is telling you, oh, you can't do this or whatever it is, just repeat this to yourself. The lack of evidence is not an evidence of lack. So the fact that you don't have evidence for something doesn't mean that it does not exist or it's not already there. So you don't need the evidence to know that it's possible. You just need to believe that it's possible. One of my most favorite quotes of all times is Henry Ford's quote, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." Here is my advice. Choose to think that you can, and you will. It is as simple as that. The moment on a mental level that you become aware that your thoughts are things and they create your reality or how you experience reality, it becomes, again, fundamentally important to be grounded, to be present, and to be aware of the thoughts that are constantly permeating through your consciousness. This is why meditation is fundamental. If we really are dedicated to our personal growth, meditation is fundamental. It's the base we want to be building on top of. Because if we don't have this base, everything else will just tumble and topple down. We want to be very well grounded and have this ability to have a level of self-awareness that allows us to know where we're at all times. Because we can be exposed to the greatest material in the world when it comes down to personal development. Read the best authors, have them to be our mentors and all this and so on, right? But the moment that something happens in our life, we have the knowledge, right? We have the knowledge, we read it 10 times, and now we never really practice it, but we have the knowledge. And now something occurs in our life that life throws us a curveball or whatever happens, we're a little bit anxious, stressed out, whatever, right? Because it's in those moments when it really counts, when you get to see where you're at. And when those moments happen, you default back to your previous behavior. You don't all of a sudden rise up to the challenge, as they say and Navy SEALs say. And Navy SEALs have a very popular expression. You don't rise up to the challenge. You sink to the level of your training. So meaning, how have you trained yourself to default to? Because under pressure, because those are the situations that really count, is when the real transformation, if it has occurred, or how we have grown, will present itself. So it might be a situation that somebody's getting on your nerves. It might be a situation that something scary really happens to you. Whatever it is, maybe something in a work, like, right, there's multiple possibilities. But in those moments in where we really get to see where we actually at. Because at those levels, again, we don't think clearly. We just default to patterns of behavior that we have from before. So meditation, again, is one of those fundamental groundings that we can have that will allow us to, instead of being triggered by a situation, to remain in control of ourselves. Because the only thing ultimately that we have control in this lifetime is ourselves. That's why, to me, self-mastery is fundamental. Because we unfortunately have nothing control. We don't have any control over anything else besides ourselves. However, if we become amazing at controlling ourselves and our experience, then our experience of life becomes however we want it to be. We can make it as HD as we want, and we can make it black and white as much as we want. It's all up to us because the settings are within. They're not somewhere outside to look for. And meditation is the place we start. Without meditation, we are lacking a significant ability to really be in control of our emotional state, knowing where we're at, what's going on in our heads. Because again, if everything, I haven't mentioned this yet, but everything in the human condition is habitual behavior. Every single thing is habitual. It's a pattern of behavior. Whether it's the way you think, the side of the bed you sleep on, the way you eat, the way you speak with your folks, the way you brush your teeth, everything is habitual. Every single thing is habitual. And the more we are in a meditative state, the more conscious we are of our habits and our patterns that we're running on a consistent basis. And once we are, then we have the ability to change things. Or we know what's working and what's not working, because obviously there's going to be things that work. It's not like everything is bad, but we want to be aware of what's not working and what can we do about it. And this holds true with our thoughts. If we are unconscious that there are these limiting beliefs and thoughts that permeates our mind, and then we start to engage with them, giving them energy and make them even bigger, then those limitations will be sustained. So we want to be very conscious of the thoughts we have, again, how we feel in our bodies, what's going on, the behavior patterns we have throughout the day, and so on. And this comes from that place, from being in a meditative state. Now, I kind of pointed this out as we started the conversation, but there are three fundamental levels when it comes down to us transforming and becoming the best version of ourselves. Because again, it's a moving target. It's not like today we picture this target in the distance and tomorrow we are the best version of ourselves. It's a moving target. However, what is important to understand that every transformation first begins on the intellectual level. Just like right now, you guys tuned in for my webinar. You're going to discover some amazing insights, and great. You just probably had a lot of light bulbs coming up, and that's what I mean. The transformation happens on the intellectual level. You listen to something, you read something, somebody tells you something, you see something, whatever it is, you just have this realization, this moment of insight where the light bulb comes in. That's great. However, the next thing or next level of transformation that's required for things to start happening is on the emotional level. Meaning, again, just like I invited you earlier in the conversation to have a why you want to do something, right? Have the emotional charge, something that's going to get you to do it, actually, not just to hear about it, but continue business as usual, but actually take action on it. So we want the transformation, the information to sink in on an emotional level. The expression is where the penny drops. You kind of like, I need to do this, right? And then the last one is after you have done it, is on the behavior level or our level of identity, where we're no longer doing this. It's part of who we are. Meaning that we don't have to make ourselves any longer do it. We are this person. And again, if part of your identity, let's use this bad example, but it's a powerful example. You're a smoker. Well, you smoke cigarettes every day, right? So you make it part of your being. So then it's no effort required or energy to make yourself doing it. Then it's easier to do it than it's not to do it. So always come in the level of transformation from this point. That's why at the beginning of the conversation, I mentioned, first time you listen to the webinar for information, the second time to sink in on an emotional level, and the third time to start creating a transformation by taking action on it. Because it's always on these layers. Everything is step-by-step process, but we have to begin somewhere. And by, again, knowing where we at and where we want to go, now we have a very, very good set of data to work with. Because if we were to take, for example, the analogy of a GPS system or Google Maps or whatever, whenever we want to go somewhere, first, obviously, the system needs to know where we're at, and then we need to know where we want to go. Once we have those 2 points, we can go anywhere, as long as we have the desire to do so, which will be our why. The next point I want to make is about personal or developing self-empowerment and having a very empowered set of beliefs, mindsets, and so on, that you always come from a place of empowerment. You're listening to your own internal champion. You always know that you are there for yourself, that you can crush anything that comes along. Now, this is a fundamental thing that we all have to develop if we are to get at some point in our life that we want to get to, that we aspire to, because there's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be doubts. There's always going to be people doubting us. There's always going to be, this voice in your head. There's always going to be these things. However, if you develop the trust and knowing in yourself that you can handle any type of uncertainty that life throws at you, then you're unstoppable. Because you can expect, in a very logical and realistic way, that since life is a school, we're all here to learn and grow, that as you level up through the classes, the tests in school do not become easier. Meaning that if you're to graduate 8th grade and you go to 9th grade, you can naturally expect for the test to get more challenging and complicated. They're not going to be easier. So developing a sense of, yes, I can, and no matter what the challenge is, I can handle this because I have the data, meaning like I already have evidence that I've done it before. And I'm willing to play from this place of unknowing, meaning that I don't need to know the how necessary to overcome my challenge. What I need to be focused on is my outcome, the what I want, and guiding towards this destination. Now, this is a very deep topic of discussion. My last webinar was on this topic, so I'm gonna post in the chat box right now the link to the recording for the previous webinar. So if you guys are interested in diving deeper into developing self-empowerment and being your own coach and champion and coming from this place of, yes, I can do it, then you're more welcome to watch it. Let me just grab the link real quick for you guys so you can refer back to it. But why is it so important is that for one simple reason. As human beings, we have 6 psychological needs. The first one of which is certainty, the most fundamental, or the need to knowing that we are safe, that let's say the roof over our head right now is not going to tumble on us, that we're going to have shelter for tomorrow, that we're going to have some food, that we're going to have some comfort, that this is the sense of safety and well-being. However, in an impermanent universe, which is a fact. Even our sun one day will implode and die. The only sense of certainty as it is, everything else that we can do, the type of certainty we get, is just, it's a ghost. It does not exist. It's fake. The only certainty we can develop is our own ability or trust in ourselves that we can handle any uncertainty and adversity that life throws at us. From that place, we can go and play full out the game of life in any way we want. There's nothing stopping us coming from this place, and coming from the place of being open to the unknown, to learn as you dance, to learn as you go, just by having the open mind and putting yourself in this situation instead of resisting, allowing. So I'm going to post the link in here. Just a second. All right, here we go. So I do recommend you guys watch this webinar as well. There's plenty of good points in it. It'll be definitely well worth your time for you to dive deeper into it, because these two topics, self-empowerment and becoming your best self, they're hand in hand. They go hand in hand. It's really hard to reach the point of aspiration or the vision you have for your greatest self without having a level of self-empowerment. Because trust me, the only person that you have there in this life to support you, to be your number one fan and champion, is you. There's always, if you rely on somebody else to be doing this for you, you'll be disappointed many times. You have to be your own coach. You have to be your own champion. You have to be there for yourself and show up every day, because if you are not showing up for yourself, who is? Now, the next point, we got to talk about our goals, right? Because once we have a purpose and a vision, meaning like, okay, I have a clarity on the purposeful life I want to live. I have a vision of what my best self looks like, that I aspire to reach at some point in my life. Now, what goals do I set for myself to get to that point, right? Because the goals is what really where the rubber hits the road, or where we actually start putting into practice and take pragmatic daily action towards this destination. We're starting the journey. We know where we want to go. We know where we're at. We need to start taking steps every single day to make progress. So the most fundamental thing is to first realize that there are two types of goals that we can focus on, or even three. The first one is means goals. Means goals, if you're familiar with this concept, are things like money. Every time you say, oh, my goal is to have money, money is a means to an end. It's not an end's goal. You need money because you believe that money is going to buy you something or allow you to do something, right? So means goals are the things that we need to do, or need resources we need to have, or whatever, the things that need to happen in order for us to get to the end goal, or to be sitting underneath the rainbow. Now, we want to be always focused. When we're setting goals, we want to be focused on the end goal. What is the North Star? Where am I sailing to? I'm a sailor. I want to get somewhere. I follow the North Star, because I don't know if any of you are familiar with racing style driving or riding motorcycles, but every time you're riding a motorcycle or you're driving a car in a very fast pace, you're always looking, your eyes are looking throughout the next corner. So you're looking where you want to go. You're not looking at where you at or where you trying to avoid to go. So you're always looking at your destination. You're not looking at what's in front of you, because if you place your eyes on the things in front of you or the things you want to avoid, you're going to end up right there. So this is why it's always important to focus on the end goal, because that's our destination. And here is the truth. I'm sure that by now, most of you, now that I'm going to bring this up, have had this realization that nothing in life flows in a straight line. The shortest route, even though to our minds, it makes a lot of sense that the shortest distance between point A and point B is straight. Once we engage with real world and life, things starts to flow in a very different way. And there's always all these curves and bends and so on and so on. So there's always going to be the journey, the flow of the river of life taking us where we want to go. As long as we keep our eyes on our North Star, we focus on the end goal. What is that we truly want? What is the outcome that we want? Rather than where we are today or whatever. Ignore all these things. It doesn't matter. Because being focused on where you're at today is just going to keep you stuck there. What you want to be focused on is where you want to go. And then forget the how. It's not important how you get there. It's important what is your desired outcome. Your business is to know the what and stay focused on the what and take the step that is obvious to you at this moment, rather than allowing your mind to play its funny games and want to plan out and sketch all the steps, all 10, 20, 30, 50 steps ahead. This is what creates overwhelm. When we are exposed, for example, to personal development information or anything in life we want to do that we knew at and we don't have much of a clue. So we've been tapping into all these different sources of information. We acquired all this information, but now we've acquired so much information that like, oh, what do we do next, right? We have this level of like overwhelm. Focus on the immediate step that's right in front of you that you know is the next thing you need to do. And don't think about the next 10 steps. The how, it will present itself. Each time you take a step, the next step will become visible to you. Some of you who play video games might be familiar of the concept or have played video games of the fog of war concept. Video games have this map on the side, which when you start the game, it's invisible. And every time you move forward, it kind of opens up, like the fog disappears and you start to see what's on the map. So it's the same with this process when we are going towards our end goal result. We just focus on the next step right in front of us right now. We don't think about the next 10 steps, because the moment we start thinking for the next 10 steps, we fall in a trap. We overwhelm, we overplan, and as soon as, I'm not sure who said this, but there's a famous expression that, this was Mike Tyson, that as soon as I punch you in the face, your plan will fall apart. So don't plan. Plan gives you fulfills this needs of certainty, but it's creating a lot of overwhelm and a lot of just nervousness and holds you back. Because if you're planning, you always want to know what all the steps are. It's not important. Again, the how is none of your business. The what is all of your business, meaning just being focused on what you want. Now, when it comes down to goals, there's a whole different level. Not just end goal, but having a moonshot goal or stretch goals, meaning that the goal you set is beyond what you think is possible. Because in order to end on the moon, you should shoot for the stars. So we want to come from this perspective. Instead of just shooting here, we want to shoot twice as higher. So even if we miss our target, we're still gonna get to our real target. So when we set a goal, we want to set a stretch goal, a moonshot goal, a goal that really stretches us. Because at the end of the day, if we are to really focus on our growth, we want to be stretching ourselves. We don't want to be taking it easy. Just like if you go to the gym, as a great example, and you want to build big, strong muscles, you don't do it by lifting the weights you're comfortable lifting. You always going and trying to find out what's the newest, heaviest, biggest weight that you can lift by default. So you always want to be stretching yourself, always. Now here's the biggest insight about goals. I want you to remember this, write it down. The purpose of a goal is not to achieve it. It's never to achieve it. It's to become the person who can achieve this goal. Because even if you fail in this attempt, if you became the person who can achieve this goal, you can have the goal anytime you want. So it's not about the goal. It's becoming the person who can realize or bring this goal into reality. So it's never about the goal. Because if you probably notice in your lifetime so far, the moment you reach your goal, you already have a new goal. Right? So it's never like, oh, I set this goal, I reached the goal, now let's hold hands, sing Kumbaya, and drink cocktails until the sun burns to hell. Right? There's always a next goal. So it's not about the goal. It's who you become along the way. The moment you become the person that can have the goal, you will be provided with the goal or the outcome that you're seeking from that goal. I already alluded on this, but I want to actually open up the subject because this is very important. When we're talking about becoming our best self, we don't want to be looking at this mythical creature that we could become, like this amazing version of ourselves somewhere on top of this mountain or somewhere on the other end of the rainbow. What we want to be doing is be very clear who this person is and then connect and embody this person today. Allow ourselves to feel what we are expecting to be able to feel, how we are going to be in our being, embody and permeate our consciousness with that future self today, rather than waiting that one day, if this goal, and again, falling into the trap of the if-then mental model, something needs to happen in order for me to be, or so on, allowing ourselves to really feel and experience our future best self today. So allow yourself to imagine, to dream, and then become embodied. Visualize you living the life of your best self. How are you being, right? That's all, it's all important, not who is there, but how are you being? How are you feeling? How are you with others? What are you thinking about? What are you speaking of? And so these things. So allow yourself to really connect with this person today. And let your future self advise you and guide you how to get there. There are ways you can do this in your visualization practice. We're not going to have time to discuss visualization today, but I hope that you guys have played with it before. We all have an imagination. If you tell me that you don't have imagination, I'm going to call you out on it and I'll tell you how good you are at it, but you don't probably know how to use it in its most powerful way. We all have a very strong imagination and visualization because 80% of all the sense information that makes our experiences visual information. And we don't have eyes, therefore we can see, and that's why we have eyes. Just like you see things when you dream. You don't see them through your eyes, but you see them very clear, right? And they seem very real. That's because we can see without the eyes. The eyes allow us to see here in this physical dimension. So practice, get in a relaxed mental state, especially after meditation when your mind is in a lower alpha, theta, if possible. Also, binaural beats help with that. If you guys haven't meditated much and you're unable to really put yourself in a deep meditative state, especially when doing visualization and practices of this kind, download binaural beats. You listen to them through headphones, theta or delta. These brain waves or these recordings will allow your brain to attune with the wave sounds and sink into a much deeper mental space, which is a wonderful place to be coming from when you're tapping into visualization. You want to be relaxing or slowing down your brain waves, because in normal state, we are in beta state, in normal daily alertness. We at least need to be in deep alpha, which for many people that don't meditate often is a very hard thing to do, because the mind is always overactive, and you need this mental silence and space in order to sink deep. But definitely, it's important, again, to be able to, instead of one day, right? I aspire to be this person, but one day. No, you can afford and allow yourself to be this person today. Put yourself in their shoes today. Feel and be like the way you expect them to be, or you to be when you are this person. But do it today. Don't wait for whenever you think this is going to be possible, or when it's, because everything is possible. The only thing necessary is for you to truly believe that you can do it. If you have this belief, there's nothing stopping you. There's nothing stopping you, because all of the people that have changed our world, they didn't come from a place of lack of belief that they can do it. They knew they can do it. They just didn't know the how. But again, if you're focused on what you want, the end result, the how will present itself. So you stay focused on the what, not on the how, and don't get overwhelmed. Just take a step. Whatever the obvious step in front of you is today, take that step. Don't wait for tomorrow, because there might not be tomorrow. Right? We're not guaranteed waking up tomorrow. So make up the most you can today. Building up on this is, let's crush the if-then model. Now, our society, anywhere we go around the world, most people have been brainwashed since early childhood to hold this mental model as reality, as this is how it is. The if-then mental model, that if this happens, then I will be happy. That if this happens, then I will be whatever. It's always if, then, always. There is something needs to happen in order for you to feel something. Because if we are to peel back the onion all the way back and realize what is driving our behavior, regardless of what we are trying to do, is we are driven by our desire to feel in a certain way. It's how we are going to be feeling by doing it. Now, why would we wait for something to happen when we can feel this way today? What's the point? We are the ones refusing to allow ourselves to feel amazing, allow ourselves to be joyful, to be blessed, to be whatever you want to feel like, because the human experience is all about feeling. If we didn't feel anything, what's this experience about? Right? It'll be flat as like nothing. We'll be like little sensors on the car that collect data. We won't have any experience, because without the feelings, there really is no experience, because there's nothing left to experience. So it's all about the feelings, but we can generate those feelings from within today. We don't need to wait for some day. Nothing needs to happen. The fact that, for example, you have the shittiest day in your life doesn't mean that you have to be sad. You can be fucking blessed that the worst day happened in your life, and then from now on, it's all sunny days and everything's gonna be wonderful, because you just had the worst day in your life, you know? And how worse can things go? And you're still alive and everything is still good, whatever it is. You don't have to be always looking at if, then, because it's just a mental model. And it's a highly dysfunctional, futile mental model that puts a lot of people, I would say maybe 99.9% of the population on planet Earth in a very miserable state every single day, because they're always first chasing something outside of them to make them feel something within. Well, here's the biggest breakthrough. The human experience is a self-sustained hermetic system. It's like a little bubble. Nothing on the outside affects it. It's our perception that it does that makes us feel the way we do. But it's actually our own real little rules that we have set. It's basically a rule. If this happens, then I will be happy. Well, why not you being happy for it today? Because it's going to happen. Wouldn't that be a wonderful rule to set? Oh, I'll be happy for all the goals I have for myself and all these things. I'll be joyful and blessed and loving and passionate and excited and enthusiastic because they're going to happen for me. I don't need to wait for them to happen. They can happen overnight while I sleep. Because here's another little truth I want to just drop the bomb here for you guys. Maybe if you heard of it, interested, studied the law of attraction, right? The concept of the law of attraction. Well, here's the thing. When you want to attract something to you, what does this mean? Well, you become a magnet. You magnetize yourself. So this thing is attracted to you. Rather than you chasing after it, the thing comes toward. And how do you do it? By resonating with the feeling, by becoming emotionally charged in the same way that this thing that you actually after or expect to feel after having. Now, this will throw it to you. It's how it works. You have to be able to feel it now like if it already happened. So here's the model that I'm going to install or allow you to install from here on. It's called the live as if mental model. Meaning that you from here on, whatever your goals are, whatever you aspire to, you live as if it already happened. So you celebrate every single day. You are excited because you are getting to do this and you know it's going to happen. When it's going to happen doesn't matter because you already have your reward. You have already feel this way. So when it happens, and if it happens, who cares? Again, the purpose of a goal is not to get the outcome of the goal, is to become the person who can have this outcome at any time. And then who cares? You can close your eyes and have the outcome. So the live as if things have already happened. Live as if you have become the person you want to become. Always come from this place. And to be able to do it, you have to be first this way. So be, think, feel, and do in that specific way. Meaning, like, if I was to live as if, first I want to be that same way. What does it mean? Well, on the level of being, it has permeated my consciousness that this which I aspire to do has already become. It's part of my being. I'm the person who can have this thing. I think this way, I feel this way, and I do it this way, meaning like I take action that would eventually get me there. Maybe it's not going to be tomorrow, but if I keep on taking steps, if I look backwards, wow, how far have I come? So it's always coming from the live as if place rather than if then, or waiting for things to happen. No, you don't have to wait for things to happen. You can have the experience that you expect right now. Now, as we progress and we make a transformation in ourselves, we become the greater, better version of ourselves, or best version of ourselves that we can envision. There are 4 stages in the process of transformation, or something becoming part of who we are. The first one is unconscious incompetence, meaning that we don't know what we don't know. I would imagine just by being in the webinar, up to this point, you've already heard a handful of things that you didn't know before. So we first realize that we are unconscious about something. We don't know about what we don't know unless we realize. And once we do, well, we have an option. We can learn more about it, which leads us to the next phase, which is conscious incompetence. Meaning that we know what we don't know and we want to learn. We're taking steps, we're practicing something, we're doing something, we find a coach, we find a teacher, whatever is the way, whatever is the path that we see, we take steps, we take action. And we always have to be conscious, meaning like we always have to give it a lot of thought while we do it. Then we get to the point of conscious competence, meaning like we can do it, but we still have to think about it. We're good at doing it, but it's something that we always have to be thinking about it, focus and concentrated on. And eventually, we become unconsciously competent, or we master it. It's something that has become a part of our being. We no longer need to think about it. We just do it without even knowing that we're doing it. Our conscious mind is doing it on our behalf, and we can use our conscious mind to do something else. A great example, I'll give you a great example. Recently, I was riding on the highway with my motorcycle, and I'm going 80 miles between cars and so on. And at some point, I just had this thought, because I normally don't have thoughts when I ride. I just enjoy the ride, listen to my music or whatever. But I was like, wow, how am I riding this motorcycle again? Like, what am I doing here? I started to become conscious of like what I was doing, the controls on the motorcycle, because it's very different than a car. And I was like, wow, now that I'm thinking about it for a moment, I was like, wow, it's been such a long time that I no longer think about what I'm doing. I'm just doing it. It's automatic. And I can do everything else outside of like, I don't need to even be conscious at all. As long as I'm paying attention to the cars around me and so on, I don't need to think about it. But it's very interesting, because I remember when I first started again, because I've just sharing with you, but I've been riding motorcycles for a long time, and then I took a period where I didn't ride because I had a big accident and I just wanted to have some time off. And then when I got back into it, because it's been a long time, it wasn't like I didn't knew it, but I had to adjust again. I had to develop these habits again on the mastery level. And at this point now, it's like, when I just thought about it, I was like, what am I actually doing here? It was very interesting to discover that, I reached that level when I'm in mastery. Now, there are little things that I'm always trying to get better at in my riding style, and being able to hang off of my motorcycle and things like that, which are a little bit more extreme, not necessary to ride a motorcycle. But for those things, I'm conscious about my body position and so on, because there are new things I'm learning to do. But the actual riding between the cars, braking, all the things, shifting gears, all these things, doesn't matter. It's automatic. So this is what I mean by all these levels of transformation to reaching a point of mastery. We always want to be working and progressing. Is going to be part of the journey to reaching a mastery in each and every single aspect that we are aspired to be as the best version of ourselves. As always, no matter what level in life you are, you can be a president of a country, you can be an astronaut, whatever it is, the beginner's mind is the place to begin from. Always with an open mind, always being able and open to learn, rather than having this level of egoic self-importance that, I'm so important, why would I learn this, right? Like, stepping into whatever it is that you want to learn, you want to master, because it's not about learning about it. The learning process is just the very first step. When we realize that we don't know something, that we're unconscious about something, and we become conscious. But that's where the journey starts. So we want to be always going into it with the beginner's mind, always being open to being this place of like, I'm a little child, I'm learning the ropes, I'll do whatever is necessary. And in that moment, is where the magic happens, because I'll explain something. This is very important for you to wrap your head around. Every time you start learning something new, or you're starting to do something new that you've never done before, that requires an ability and development of skill, you will feel frustrated initially. Every single time, regardless of what it is, you will feel frustrated. But embracing this frustration is the greatest hack, because when you do, and you still, in spite of the frustration, you embrace what you do and you stick with it, you're going to become a genius at doing it. Because at that moment, the brain, each time we are doing something new, starts to lay out new neural pathways and connections within. It builds up or improves its infrastructure through which all of the brain signals flow through. And every single time we are doing new activity, or thinking in a different way, feeling in a different way, whatever, something new that we're doing, there needs to be a new infrastructure built through which the signal can follow or can travel through. And what happens with this frustration, if we embrace the frustration and we don't give up, we just stick with it, and we are determined, inspired, and enthusiastic about it, what happens is the brain sees that this is something very important to us, and actually begins to encode on the outside with a special insulator called myelin all of these new brain connections that are happening or taking place in the brain, which enhances the transfer of signal. It makes us literally, if we are to continue on, we can become a genius at it. There is nothing genius about geniuses. Geniuses just put the tens of thousands of hours necessary to become a genius at something. They just master it on such a level, and again, most likely at the beginning, because it was something they're passionate about, they cared about, and enthusiastic, they're really like embrace that frustration rather than be always like back and forward, unsure, and so on. No, embrace the frustration. If it's something important to you, embrace the frustration and play full out. This will help you to become even amazing at the skills you have. So this is a very important hack to wrap your head around. Don't let this frustration hold you back. There's always going to be frustration. It's normal. Another very important point to realize is that anxiety is the emotion of growth when it's not being suppressed. What do I mean? Every time you're about to grow, every time you're about to go through a challenge, it's normal to experience anxiety. It's absolutely normal. However, the key is, again, just with the frustration when you're learning something new, is to embrace it and lean in it. Because the moment you lean into it, it'll disappear. It will transmute into the energy of excitement. Because if you are to observe the body and the chemistry within the body, when we are either stressed out, anxious, or excited, the chemistry is the same. It's just how we frame it in our mind. So next time, when you're doing something that requires you to stretch your comfort zone, because this is a requirement for you to become the best version of yourself. You cannot expect to be growing and to be unfolding into your greatest potential in your comfort zone. You'll have to be stepping into your discomfort and stretching yourself. But next time this anxiety shows up, do not suppress it. Do not try to avoid it. Embrace it. Step into it and hold it in your head. Reframe it as excitement, because this will propel you forward. It's not going to hold you back. This is the biggest hack ever. It's the most powerful thing. You can choose to be anxious and stressed, which will disempower you and put you down. Or you can choose, it's your choice. It's simple as that. You have a choice. How do you choose to frame or hold this in your head, because it's only occurring within you. It's not occurring anywhere else. So what do you choose to call it? You're always excited in those moments, always excited. Connect to this excitement, energy of excitement, and allow it to propel you forward, rather than framing it as fear, anxiety, stress, whatever you want to call it, because it's normal for it to show up. If you're doing the right thing, or if you're actually growing, you can expect, and I do mean you can expect for this anxious energy to be showing up all the time. I already said that I want you to, once you have a clarity of what your best self is and who you want to become, to feel this and connect with this future self of you today, to feel like what you expect to feel when you are at that peak, wherever that is, whoever and however this is, to feel this way. But I want you to come from this place first of knowing that you already are that which you seek, meaning that within you already lays the seed for this. All you need to do is nurture it, water it, take care of it. As long as you are doing what is necessary, you're farming yourself in a way, if you want to think of it this way, this will grow. You're enough. You don't need to reach some point in the clouds or in the rainbow or moon or go to Mars or whatever the hell it is that you aspire to. Not that I don't want you to, but you don't need to get there to feel enough about yourself. You already are this which you seek. You're already enough. You're already amazing. You're already just one you that will ever be. So there's nothing that you need to do in order to feel that you're more or people will appreciate you more. The only person that needs to appreciate you, understand this, is you. So don't go into things from this place of like, I need this because then I could be this. Then I can be enough. Then, always again, the if-then model. Looking for something outside of us to feel something within us. This is the most dysfunctional and highly ineffective way to go about things in life. So always keep this in mind. And the final point on our webinar today, before we get into Q&A, questions, and so on, is I want you to realize, as I started the conversation earlier, that there is no finish line to this. Who can you become? How much you can expand? It's infinite. It's whatever you wish it to be. You can aspire to be a saint. You can aspire to be a manifested master. It doesn't matter. There is no finish line. With the only limitation or actual physical limit of the human body, every other aspect of yourself, you can expand to infinite capacity. Literally infinite capacity. So there is no finish line in this game. It's not about getting to somewhere. It's just continually and gradually doing it. Because if you want to live a fulfilling life, an ongoing and continuous personal growth is a requirement. It's one of the two elements, the other one being contributing. Because again, we're not growing for our own sake so we can look in the mirror and be like, oh wow, how great I am and everybody sucks. It's who can I become to be of the greatest service and add tremendous value to all the people whose lives I get to touch. Like, how do I live this place better off than when I originally found it? It's always coming from this place. What will be the point for our growth if we are not using our gifts and talents to share them with the world, to empower others, to do something for others, to come from this place of genuine desire to serve and add value? Because that's the other point. If we want to live a fulfilling life, we want to be focused on our growth, and we want to be focused on adding value and being of service, contributing to others. Because when we dissect and peel back the onion, evolution on our planet as it is, we will quickly discover that it's all about a more complex level of cooperation between living organisms. So it's how can we cooperate? The more effective we become as species at cooperating with each other, collaborating and working together for the greater good, the more amazing our life becomes. It's as simple as that. Just like when you have a conflict within your body, they call this a disease or a cancer. So it's always coming from this place. How can we contribute? How can we add value? This is the only purpose for us to grow. If it's just for our own sake, then it's an egoic pursuit. It has nothing to do with what we are really brought in this game for. Because again, our gifts are not ours. They're given to us to develop, and they're shared with others. Because the more we share, the more we give, the more we get back. And imagine what kind of a world can we create if we come from this place of developing and sharing our gifts rather than living in scarcity. Life is a school. Play full hard and have a wonderful time. With that being said, I would love to take any questions that you guys might have at this moment. I know I've been going on for a while. Now it's time for me to take a little break. And you have the mic. So who has any questions?
Hi, I don't have any questions. As I say, I joined in kind of late, but that was great. Thank you very much.
Hey, you're very welcome. Who am I speaking with? Nas. You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in. What was your biggest takeaway this far?
Let's see. My takeaway was I'm actually reading the Code of the Extraordinary Mind right now. So, you know, the means goal versus the end goal resonated with me, and just aim to go for the ends goal instead of like the mean goal. And yeah.
I see. Okay. Well, again, maybe you didn't, since you tuned in late, there's going to be a recording. I'm going to post it on my YouTube channel. And I'm not sure where you found the webinar through. Actually, where did you find the webinar through?
I found it through the Connections app. And yeah, I actually wanted to go to the meetup that you set up in Townside in LA. I'm actually from Riverside. I'm driving around Corona right now. So yeah, we're not that far. So I would like to link up someday too.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, let's connect through the app and so on. Yeah, it was great. I was actually sharing earlier on the call that I did actually host a get together. There was a lot of people that showed up. We had very good conversations and so on. It was good. We would have loved to have you, but there's always going to be a next one. So no worries.
Definitely.
Well, thank you, Nas. Thank you for saying hi and listening through the conversation. And again, I'll post the recording once it's uploaded in the Connections app too, so you guys can re-watch it and so on. So no worries.
Looking forward to it. But
who else have any question or comments? Feel free to unmute yourself and say hi. What about you, Natalie? Anything comes to mind?
A lot of clarity. I used to think that your limitation just is like a barrier, but from what you're saying, limitation is only psychological. You just need to get over that and then find your true self. So that was a bit eye-opening for me.
And what is the step you're gonna take tomorrow to crash through those limitations? Do you have any ideas already?
I have a few, but like you said, just focus on the immediate step going forward, and then the end goal will, the how will reveal itself. It's just about continually going forward.
Yeah, taking the step that's obvious in front of you. So definitely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Take the step tomorrow. Don't wait until next day, because we're not guaranteed the next day, you know?
Definitely.
Wonderful. Do you have any questions?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Well, I have few. Thank you, Monica. Thank you for joining. You're very welcome. I wanted to share with you a few more resources. What about you, Camille? Can you hear me and say if you have any questions, comments, anything?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think I had a question about living as if. I kind of find that a little bit difficult, like to put myself in the context of where I want to be. So I just want to know if you could share a little bit more about how to live as if.
Well, here's the thing. There are some things involved in it. So it all has to do with developing the behaviors. First, being able to generate emotions on demand, right? There are some things involved with it. Being able to guide your thoughts to where you want them to be, meaning like you've designed this vision. For example, let's put it this way. In order for you to be able to live as if, first you want to be able to envision what it is, right? Imagine it in your imagination and start visiting it there and making it a lot more detailed each and every single time.
Okay.
Then once you do it, you can start connecting to the emotions, right? Bringing emotions, because it's the emotions that's fundamental. Because the more emotional you are about it, the more emotion you can generate, the more real it becomes for your mind. And it's, again, through the behavior, through the thinking, through the feeling, and so on, that you get to that level. Because I've been practicing this for a long time. Obviously, just like everything else, be okay with the frustration at first. It's going to take training, right? It's going to take practice, just like everything else. But if you put the time and effort into it, you'll be able to do it. It's not something hard or difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty simple, but it's not easy, because again, if you never trained to do it, if you always been trained on the other side of the spectrum, which is the if-then model, then you have, first you need to rewrite or overwrite your own habit, right? So because you already have a habit that you by default fall into. But if you learn to do it, then it's a matter of seconds. I can cry from joy in less than a minute. But again, it's through practice, through visualizing where it is that you want to be, feeling this way, or connecting to the feelings that you expect to be feeling when you're there. Because up to this point, you've just basically you refused yourself, or refused to allow yourself to feel this way, because you always had to have something happen in order for you to feel this way. So this is why it's probably not making it seems hard.
Yeah.
Right? Because you've always been waiting for something to come, and then you can be happy, right? Where the happiness occurs within. It's not like something changes when something comes into your life that you can be happy for. The happiness is within. All of the emotions we experience, they happen within. They stay within. They don't come out. I mean, we can express them, right, through our faces and the body language and posture and so on, but it's not like it's all within.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always how we hold it in our head. And again, if not all humanity, by default, is following the if-then model. And it's the most important thing that is now you realize that there is a better way to do this, right? To play this game of life. And now what you need to do is start putting the practice and doing it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that.
Sure, absolutely. And I want to share a few resources with you guys before I close the call today. Let me just find them all. The first one I'm going to share with you guys is a complimentary video coaching call. 1 hour with me, one-on-one coaching, cracking through whatever limitations are holding you back, whatever opportunity you want to take on. Here's the link. You guys are welcome to schedule your coaching call, and I look forward to serving you powerfully. If you're interested, save the link. Oops. Oh, I see. Okay. Let me pause this to everyone. There we go. So bookmark the link or even follow it right now and see what dates are available and book your coaching call. Camille was on a coaching call with me not too long ago.
Yeah.
How was that for you, Camille?
That was good. I started putting into practice some of the journaling entries that you told me to focus on. And yes, it's become a part of my morning routine now. So I'm excited to see the changes in my mental state, especially, and emotional state as well.
Nice. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that you're actually taking action and putting things into practice and starting to see the results. Because once you put it into practice, you got to definitely start to see the results. What are you doing right now? Especially through the journaling process, you magnetizing your mind to always focus on what's there, or not what's missing. That's the important thing, to always focus on the positives rather than the negatives. But because by default in our evolutionary biology, we are wired to always focus on the negative. Because if you're going through the jungle, for example, and if you miss a strawberry over there, no big deal, right? But if you miss the snake, big deal.
Yeah.
So we're always predisposed to be focusing on the negative. And we don't have to do anything to excel at it. It's by default wired in our evolutionary biology. However, doing the opposite requires time and effort. But once we do it, then we start to always see the positives. That's why it's so important. And I'm glad that you're doing this. High five for that.
High five.
Yeah, wonderful. I love it. So the first resource, again, is the coaching call. So you guys are welcome to sign up. The next one is a 5-day holistic transformation challenge that you can sign up for through email. And it's delivered through email every day. There's a new video, a new lesson, touching upon all the different aspects, physiology, psychology, emotions, spirituality, and character, and so on. So I definitely recommend signing up. If you resonated with what I shared with you through this webinar, definitely sign up for my challenge. And last but not least, I want to share with you my YouTube channel and my Instagram if you want to follow me on social media. And again, watch the replay of this webinar once I upload it in a couple of days. It'll be 2 days until it's available. So the first one is my Instagram, and the second one is my YouTube channel. And also on my YouTube channel, you're going to find a lot of other amazing videos and lessons, full-blown lessons about all the webinars that I'm doing. So if you're interested in some of the upcoming webinars, that's actually one more link I want to share with you. Access to, or where you can see all of my upcoming webinars. So if something something seems interesting, there's already a lesson. You can watch it there on the listing itself. There's already embedded an hour or so long lesson that I talk about, kind of not in depth, but all of the details that I'll be sharing with you on an actual webinar, and then obviously we can have questions and so on. So if you're interested, check out my webinar calendar. And with Nas, as you mentioned, Nas, thanks for connecting. And eventually I used to host the webinars as workshops in person, but since the COVID situation, this hasn't been an availability, so I had to change things up. And thanks to Zoom, we can connect with people around the globe, but I'll definitely love to connect in person. And let me share this link with you guys. Let me just find out where it is. If I only knew where it was. No, I know where it is. Because I had them saved from before in a document where I can copy and paste them all. But for some unknown to me reason, when I paste them, then it's kind of like they messed up half of the links or half of the text in the link, so they don't take you to the right place. Fortunately, I discovered this early on, so I wasn't giving people fake links. All right, there we go. Found it. So unless you guys have any final comments, questions that comes to mind, I'm gonna say thank you so much for allowing me to share my wisdom with you and coming on the call and taking this time to invest in yourself, because ultimately that's what it is. You're investing in yourself, and each time changes are happening, you just have to be willing to take action and follow through, because without the action, it's just mental masturbation. So take action on all of the things that resonated with you in this conversation today. I love you guys. Thank you for allowing me to empower you and be of service. I really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martin.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.